Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where I was gonna switch out all the Linkin Park over there from the last video, but I think we're just gonna leave it up, 20th anniversaries only happen 20 years after something happened. Foals is a band that I have been suggested basically since the beginning here. I know that it's very in with the crowd that watches the videos, that's a fan of some of the more popular reviews that I have on here. This is a highly requested band. I went ahead and made up a poll, much like Queens of the Stone Age last time around, and asked you all what album you wanted to see specifically out of a list of their albums. Antidotes won by a very large margin, as long as I'm remembering that right anyways, but I know that it won by a significant margin. So I'm not really sure if this is going to end up being one of those bands where the first album is significantly better than the rest, or if people just want me to start with the first one, or what exactly is going on, but I'm going to see how much interest there is in more of these proceeding forward. I've never listened to this band though. I have to say, as part 1 and 2 of Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost kind of rolled out and everybody was reviewing that, I was almost a little bit curious, almost tempted to check it out, but man, when there's a part 1 and a part 2 of something, I just don't want to even get that deep into it, and I didn't know any of the other discography, so here we are. We're starting with the debut, Antidotes here. Kicking it off, I don't like the cover. There's nothing fun about looking at that, but maybe that's the point. I don't know. It's a hell of a lot better than some of the album covers that I've complained about already. So, with all that being said, the first track is The French Open. I don't know if it's called The French Open because it's the opening to the album. I don't know what exactly the deal is with that, but we'll check it out. Is that bagpipes we got kicking it off here? We about to hear some bagpipe rock and roll? I genuinely think so, but I'm second guessing the hell out of myself. Okay, it's a nice little rhythm. I see you. Digging this portion of the track. Very interesting instrumental things that I wasn't necessarily expecting here. Okay. The lyrics here are actually French, and we'll go ahead and translate that. This track is apparently about tennis. Didn't have to do a lot of reading to come up with that, but it's there. French is genuinely really cool sounding language. Okay, that was really interesting. Wasn't what I was expecting at all. For some reason I was kind of going into this expecting it to be kind of a more indie sounding affair, or possibly kind of a pop punk thing going on. But really interesting. I'm, intrigued by what that track was kind of giving us here. A little bit more obscure style. It's looking like the biggest contributing genres to this are generally considered math rock and psychedelic rock. I can totally see where that's coming in. Both of those seem to fit the bill pretty well. Not that I really like slapping genre tags on everything, but it is just another way to describe it. But I just think these plucky, very individual melodies going on with the entire song all the way through were really cool, and I like the minimalism of this track too. There wasn't a whole lot going on at any point, and it didn't try to overwhelm the listener. At some point, if every track became that way, and I'm not sure if it will or not, that could get pretty boring, but I'm not sure, Like I said, apparently this song is about tennis, but there's more that I suppose could be taken away from Waste Away, all these wasted games, rackets, gadgets. Saying something's a racket is kind of like saying it's a ripoff, and saying something's a waste is kind of the same way. And if you're talking about the love of the sport, that's probably not exactly the best way to describe it, so, there you go. I think there's a little bit more going on here than, it's just a song about tennis. It seems weirdly simplistic for a song topic, so I imagine there's a little bit more going on here, but this does seem more or less to just be kind of an intro, despite it being fairly long. but, you know, we'll give it that. All right, cool. Cassius is the next one. Okay, so as anybody knows, when there's something I don't quite understand in the title, I like to kind of look it up and know exactly what I'm talking about. I guess I wasn't aware that Cassius is a name, but here we are, and I have found that out now. The annotation here, and, you know, take it with a grain of salt, who knows how accurate or inaccurate anything is. The annotation here says that the name is taken from the two most famous people in history named Cassius. Muhammad Ali's original birth name was apparently Cassius, which, you know, kind of goes without saying. He's known for boxing and whatnot. But what's particularly interesting about him that may be affecting the song is that he had a split personality, as well as the other famous Cassius, which is someone who apparently lived in the century before the death of Christ and the leading investigator in the plot to betray and murder Julius Caesar. So maybe we're talking about some like two-faced people, some people who are at least unpredictable, maybe? I love the vocal style going on here. The high-pitched but raspy style is very likable. They're really not afraid to use things that aren't traditionally in rock music, which is pretty cool. Got some horns going on here. Very nice. Really starting to like this chorus. It's growing on me a lot. Really love the little instrumental sections they just gonna place in. There's always a little counter melody that just kind of lightens the mood, I guess, you know? Sounds very upbeat. You know, these songs, they aren't exactly short so far. Both of these are almost 4 minutes in length, but they do enough during that runtime to stay really, really interesting the whole way through, and they end up just feeling like really fun, brief moments during those, 4 minutes. These songs haven't felt long so far. Normally I'd see the 5 minutes and 15 seconds length of the next one here and just go, that's probably not going to go well, because a lot of times, when a band does more like normal length songs and then they try something longer, sometimes it just doesn't work. Intrigued enough to want to hear that one right away. So yeah, we kind of dove into the meaning of this song before I even listened to it. And that definitely seems like it's what's going on here. He says Cassius at best, like that's the best you can say about this person that maybe our narrator is talking about, is that they're two-faced and unpredictable and just kind of not somebody you want to put your trust into because they might become a different person at a later date. Seems like our narrator here feels somewhat betrayed. And honestly, it might even be a little bit of a stretch to say this had anything to do with Muhammad Ali, because if we're thinking about the person who ended up being part of the killing of Julius Caesar, that adds up a lot better than just someone who has like a multi-personality thing going on. And outside of that, the sound of this is just really fitting because it doesn't quite sound happy or sad. We're somewhere in the middle there where you can tell our narrator's feeling some kind of emotion. It's just kind of somewhere in the middle though. But it's really danceable kind of beat to it, really entertaining in that way, I guess. It's just fun to listen to. That's something that I'm really liking about this so far. There's something just really unique about the way they're putting the music together on this record so far. It really has its own sound, and that's something I like to see. Sox Pugie? Maybe? Is the next one? Yeah, apparently whatever the last word in this title is something that they appear to have made up, because nobody seems to know what this title means. And when you type in the word Pugie or Pugie, I'm not really sure what is going for here. The only thing that comes up is actually this song. With all that being said, let's go though. The drumming is so nice on this record. It has a really unique sound to it again. Kind of subtly hollow, but still has that snappiness to it. really like how light this sounds, you know, they're still making a lot of use of the mix though. It's not loud and it's very relaxed, but they're still doing a lot with it to keep it kind of interesting. They really know how to write a catchy hook. The verbiage of it is kind of wordy, but at the same time it's still likable and catchy. Really loving the percussion on here, as well as that subtle little looping riff there. Wow. There is something about this section. Oh, and they know how to get me now because it transitioned. I'm surprised people aren't like memeing on me for talking about fucking transitions that much, because it's just something. It's something that gets me every time, man. I love it. It's so satisfying. I really love how they are optimizing subtlety and spacey, very stripped back mixing and assembly of these tracks. I like that they're not afraid to experiment with some sounds, even some instruments that you don't typically hear in rock music, indie, or whatever the fuck we want to call what they're going for here. I just really like the fact that this is one of the few instances I can say that music is doing a whole lot and has a lot of intricate details, but yet still doesn't sound in any way loud. This has the relaxed nature of like an acoustic guitar ballad, while still just having crazy psychedelic contradicting tones that end up being really intricate and detailed. That ending portion there was super nice. It just kind of had me somewhere else entirely. I just kind of spaced out as soon as that phased in, and that was a very rewarding thing it ended up being. Yeah, really cool song. I like that a lot. And again, the chorus on there actually also really nice. Lyrically, people don't seem to necessarily have a solid interpretation of this. In what I was getting from it, it kind of seems to be about love, or at least some kind of regrets in a relationship, something like that. But also, I like the notion that this may just be a lot of imagery that kind of is supposed to evoke a certain emotion. It seems like they're really digging at a certain feeling, and it's a really hard feeling to describe, but I feel like, especially if you're kind of immersed into this album, it's a very evident feeling. It's almost like something I was saying before, where it's not quite happy or sad, it's somewhere in the middle, but it's still very distinct. I'm not sure how else to put it. I'm genuinely way more interested in what's going on in this album than I expected to be. Olympic Airways is the next one. Very quiet vocals, but I can still understand them really well. They're very intelligible, which is nice. Solo section here. The vocals especially, but everything about this music just has a lot of personality. Man, I'm telling you, if you've heard this album before and you haven't heard it on really good headphones, you probably haven't heard it before. The mixing is so complicated, but at the same time, really simple. You know, I'm really loving the balance of that going on in this album. What I said in there already is that a lot of this just has so much character to it. You know, this music really has a personality of its own, and I like that a lot about it. That's what's really keeping me interested in this, particularly, is just how likable it is, how human it feels while still being kind of strange and unexpected. What I'm getting from this track, lyrically speaking, is it's about kind of two lovers probably who want to do the cliche thing where you run away together, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting from it. Or at least someone wishing that they would have done that in, like, maybe something where both of them moved on and maybe it was due to outside factors. You know, that's another guess for you. But again, it doesn't even really seem like it's about the lyrics like that. I mean, the lyrics here are definitely important, especially in that there's so much imagery given in them, but I feel like it's still kind of trying to evoke a mood out of you. But by all means, please do, because I mean, whatever mood it is, it's making me kind of happy. It's like happy in a kind of cathartic way, though, if that makes any sense. Also, apparently this was on the FIFA 09 soundtrack, which is, what a bizarre placement. Normally I wouldn't even make mention of something appearing on a soundtrack, but I just thought that was really bizarre. You know, this seems so not normal to show up on the soundtrack of something, but whatever. Electric Boom is the next one. I'm loving the side to side thing. Oh, they're gonna keep it going the whole time, right? I dig it. This one's way more menacing and like has a heavier bass line to it, kind of darker sounding. More very vivid imagery. I see what you're doing, like speaking of the imagery on this chorus too. It's really neat. There's so much implied with that statement. So there's something about this, and it's annoying me so much that I just can't describe what it's evoking feeling-wise, but it's something, man. Wow. Sometimes I'm a little tense, or maybe even just trying too hard to analyze the music that I'm listening to when I do these, and then sometimes I end up doing something like this where I come back and reevaluate what I said in the video. But this one has me so genuinely lost, it's actually insane. I don't get what it is that this makes me feel, but it's something really, really unexplainable. I mean, I've said this 3 times essentially now. You saw it on screen already, and you heard me say it. It's really special, though. I don't know, because I'm at such a loss here. You know, I can't really make good commentary on it, and I don't even know what to do with the wacky effects, man. I'm speechless. I just don't know. Look at this. Look at this, man. I'm sitting there looking like my fucking brain is melting. That's because it is. Like, what is this? Why is it fucking magical? Look, dude, I don't play anything up for the camera in these reactions, alright? I do the same shit, except for talking, I guess, when I'm listening to music on my own, and I just look like I fucking came out of some trance-like state right now. And that's pretty much because I did. What is it with this? You know, I kind of tried it a couple times before this point and almost noticed this going on. With that track in particular, when I would just kind of do the thing where I just, like, close my eyes, space out to it a little bit, just let it kind of surround me, just be alone with nothing else but the music. It's kind of this, you know, whole sensory deprivation thing that you might want to do to fully take in music sometimes, and I like to do that a lot when I'm doing these reaction videos, just because it ends up making me realize certain things about the music that I didn't before. And wow, does that do a lot. That does a huge number with this music. You know, the last thing that really did that this much to me is Schlegenheim by Black Midi. You can? Yeah, you can see it in frame there. Yeah, right there. Where when you really just take it all in, just don't think about anything, don't see anything, be alone with the music around you, it's just like strangely psychedelic. Really just sounds trippy, even though it's all very explainable, I guess. You know what's going on with this music. It's not super experimental, but the way the placement just goes on with it is really something. I feel like the way they compose their tracks has got to be really different than how you would usually see. I mean, I think that's where the whole math rock thing comes in. I mean, pardon me, but I feel like anybody knows that at this point, the part of the songs that I don't interpret all that much is the compositional elements, because I'm not super good at that. I'm not a buff on music theory, nor really how songs are put together. I just tell you what I'm hearing. And so for that reason, I don't really know exactly what it is that makes this as unique as it is, but it's really unique. And all of that paired with the fact that the lyrics are only giving you implications and imagery, and nothing's really very straightforward stated, just gives such a different feeling to the music. Again, you've got these somewhat held back but high-pitched and somewhat emotive vocals lining up the track, delivering these kind of uncanny lyrics. It's just a totally different vibe. And the fact that this one was just like a little bit darker just took me into it even more. Yeah, we're almost halfway through this, and Balloons is going to be the last one that we look at in part 1, but I'm thoroughly intrigued. One of the shortest ones on here, but not quite the shortest. Oh, we got a faster pace going on here. Okay. It's kind of upbeat and likable, but there's gonna be something else added to it that makes it not quite as upbeat. It's gotta be the loudest vocals on here so far. That's different. More synthetic kind of additions going on. I know there's some on the last track too, but it's particularly evident here. That fade out is super nice. Alright. Oh, and then the next track kind of matches it too. You know, the thing that I can kind of liken this to the very most is something like Animal Collective, where it's somewhat, held back. It's not like in your face with how loud everything in the very vast mix is, but at the same time, there's a lot going on with it that keeps it kind of intriguing. I guess what I would contrast this to in the realm of some kind of psychedelic rock type music would be, something like a Tame Impala. I feel like there's other examples that should be coming to mind, but they're just not right now, so that's what I got for you. Where, it's very complicated, somewhat psychedelic, but it takes advantage of very loud sounds to keep you immersed in the music rather than having a lot of these subtle little things going on. But they pull off the subtlety to it extremely well. I know I said in the first track, or maybe the second track when I got done listening to that if every song kind of takes the same style, it might end up becoming repetitive by the time we reach the end of the album. But every time they seem to add something a little bit different. This one had that bridge section that didn't really sound anything quite like what we've heard on the album already. It kind of almost took that more menacing tone like the last track did. I don't know if menacing is really the right word for it. It's not intimidating, but it's somewhat cloudy. It's, feels like a thunderstorm rather than a bright sunny day. We'll put it like that. And like I said, there was more synthetic elements rather than it being kind of raw instrumentals. Still, taking very good advantage of that unconventional mixing, you know. I'm liking that a lot. Lyrically speaking, incredibly self-explanatory. He is likening love to balloons in that they can kind of make you feel as if you're floating, but then, of course, you can think of the implied downfalls of floating, especially when you have the phrase here, fair weather storms are in your head. There's a lot of different ways you could take that, but I think one thing we can definitely agree upon is that if you're on or in a balloon, however you might want to look at it, running into a storm would not be a great idea. Wouldn't be a good time anyway. So this is really interesting. I'm thoroughly intrigued by this record. So part 2 will be out tomorrow as you're seeing this. And I'm really excited to hear it. I was expecting to like this to some capacity, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite this interesting. So drop a like on the video if you did like what you saw today, and subscribe to the channel for more music related content coming your way. Hit the bell for notifications on that same thing as well. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in part 2.